Right, well I'm back at the old house, the refurbished house. It's supposedly been finished. And I've got my toolkit and I've got a couple of ladders in there. Why have I got those, eh? Well, someone slept in here overnight, one of the family members. The place having been empty for 2 or 3 weeks, empty and locked up. And they reported something that's rather disappointing. Let's go and have a look ourselves, shall we? Let's turn these lights on. Now, I'm not sure if you can see this in the light. We have got paw prints. Oh, these are even more obvious shape. Got paw prints going up the wall. And down the wall. Up the wall and down the wall and around and around. Now, they're cats. They're cats, and we were supposed to make this animal proof. And I'm looking around now thinking, how the hell did they get in? Because there's like netting, chicken wire type fencing along there. The gap up the top there is very, very small, and anyway, I'm not sure how they could really get up there. I mean, I suppose it's possible they can climb up that wall and then climb up the netting, but it seems like an awful lot of effort for a cat, really. They do like to be quite straightforward. The netting that's been put across this gap here all seems to be in exactly the same position. There's nothing broken or forced. There's a bit of a hole up there, but again, I just don't see how a cat's going to be able to go up there very easily. Well, it could. I mean, that's quite an easy. I guess that's a plastic thing that's very easy to climb up if you've got claws. But is it really going to be bothered to climb right up there? And then there's a bit of an overhang there. But I'll put that back up. I'll nail that back up. That was like that before, so it's definitely not been done by something recently. I reckon. So they're definitely not going up this roof here and then coming in through a gap where the roofs join there. But look, there's light there. And if there's light there, that means there's a gap. And I wonder if that gap there is big enough for a cat. Now, when we were deciding where to put the wire netting, one of the things I was considering was the end of the house. Let's go out this way and show you what my thought process was. So I actually said, and I think I said on film, that the cats can get on this roof here because they can go on the roof, they can go on the wall that's at the back of the house where the orange wall is, and then they can jump onto the roof, which is very close by and very low down. So they can get on top of here, and I was actually saying to myself, can they get in here? And I was looking at how this is all formed, and the answer is no. I'm sure they can't get in there because the wooden slats, the wooden panelling on the end of the roof there go right up to the roof, bar a couple of inches. But I considered that they could get onto the end of this down here, and then they could jump up into that, certainly into that first gap between the roof and the house. And Suntory actually wired off 2 sections just to make sure. Oh, hello, look, there's some, I've spotted some claw marks just there. I don't think I can show you. Yes, can you see those? Just there. So a cat has definitely tried to get up there, but it really doesn't look like they've succeeded. I mean, they probably could have got hold of that wire, but the wire's not squashed down like a cat's forced its way up between the wire and the roof. I would expect it to be really, really floppy, but I wonder if that's how they're getting in. But there is one other section, of course, as I just said, with the light. Oh, there are claw marks there. I can see them. There's 3 or 4 claw marks up in the corner there. Damn. They must have gone over that wire and it must have bounced back into position because it's held by a piece of wire at the top there, which must be flexible. So it looks like they've possibly got in there because there's definitely marks on that paint. I can see claw marks in that corner. So that's one place I've got to do some more securing. So that's one thing they do is they give themselves away by the marks they leave. But I can't help but feel that above this roof in here, between this bedroom roof, which is sloping away from the house, and this house roof, there might be a gap big enough for them to get into the kitchen. In other words, they're getting in somewhere up there. Let's focus correct. They're getting in on the end of the house, so they're climbing up this slope here, and then they're going up the roof there, and then they're coming in here where the light is somewhere, which I'm not aware of. I haven't examined that gap yet. Oh yeah, look, there's some marks there down the wall. I can see them now. That's how they're getting in. There you go. There's a couple of claw marks there. So I either need to get up on the roof and stop them getting in underneath the roof, which I'm not keen on doing because walking on the roof is dangerous. If you don't walk on these wooden beams here, then you're going to fall through. The tin roof has got no strength of its own. Or I block up the whole of this area right along here. In fact, I might only need to block up to there because then you've got the bedroom thing there. But the trouble is, if they're in that roof space, that means they're above the bedrooms, and if they're above the bedrooms, it means they can eventually damage the ceiling and fall through. So it's got to be the roof to be totally 100%, but temporarily I think I might let Suntoray go up there and do that because she's a bit more savvy with these roofs, and I'm not very good at heights, I'm not very confident standing on narrow bits and pieces, so I might just block this area up here to stop them initially and then get her to go up on the roof when she's back from work. So yes, that's the problem we've got today that I've got to solve. First job though is to clean the walls. Well, those walls were very easy to clean off, mainly because the paint is exterior paint, very high quality Dulux, so I recommend anyone that's painting houses in Thailand to use an exterior paint of a very, very high quality, the best you can buy really. I think it's money well spent because this really does keep very, very clean, and you can get gecko poos off it for the most part. I've just noticed actually there's quite a few marks along there. I think the cat's been trying to get out that way, but probably failed. Although I've just walked around the house and this netting is actually loose along the bottom edge a little bit. So it's possible that the cat could, if it's of the right size, it could squeeze through there and drop itself down. But I'll get that secured. But going back to the paint, yes, it's well worth the extra money, I think. You probably spend for a large tub, I think we're using 2.5 litre tubs. I think it's probably 1,000 baht more than a sort of cheapie, but it's going to last donkey's years longer. especially if it's primed correctly. Well, it needs to be primed correctly, whatever. Right, I'm going to go up this ladder now and see what I can see in the way of daylight. Let's go up together, shall we? Oh, bloody hell. Oh, well, that's ridiculous, look. There you go. That's the way they're coming in. They're coming in through this gap here. They're not getting in above the bedroom at all. Oh, that's a very, very bad... That's a very, very bad mistake to make, isn't it, on our part? I didn't realise that this end was not blocked off as forward as I'd hoped, i.e. there. And I rather trusted Suntory to spot that, because she's been up on the roof and she's been sealing edges. She's been sealing edges, particularly in the corners where the rain can get in. But yeah, so they've obviously gone up onto this main roof here, or this flat roof here, I should say, and they've just walked along and coming through here. And of course then they can jump down onto the fridge freezer, which is only 1.5 meters down, and that was covered in footprints, so I've cleaned that off, so we've got evidence of the next attack, as it were, should they try and do the same. But I will block this gap up here. That's going to be quite easy to do, really, and if they get onto the roof again, they won't have any access to the bedrooms, because there's a flat roof here and there's no gaps along the flat roof for them to get into, and I'm absolutely certain that they're not small enough to get into the gap along the top there. They'd have to be a baby cat to do that. Baby cats won't be travelling like the adults do, exploring that much. So yeah, I'm quite pleased about that, because it's going to be easy for me to do that bit. And then the other bit outside, which I suspect they've been able to get over, which is right over in that corner there, that's relatively easy to deal with as well. Right, let's clean that wall up and then get some wire out. Right, well again, that didn't take me very long. I've got some really good wire cutters, so I was able to cut a double thickness length of this wire to fit. That'll give it a bit more strength against an animal that's pushing, and also it changes the shape of the holes, so they're overlapping a little bit, so there's less room for them to get into, should it be something like a mouse or a rat that's trying to get in. Anyway, that's all fixed. That's nice and firm now, and I've nailed it to the sides on there and one there, so they can't push the sides up. Not that they'll try. I think once they come across that, they'll just walk away. Now the interesting thing they use here is, first of all, we're using concrete nails, because this wood from the forest is extremely hard, so you need concrete nails to get into it. Ordinary nails go in about 3-4 millimeters and then they bend. The other thing is they're recycling their bottle caps. So for a little while we were collecting beer bottle caps and plastic bottle caps, and you just use that to spread the load, basically, so you don't have to bend the nail over or anything like that. So we've got some Shang beer bottle caps, and we've also got a metal cap from a drink, and we've got some plastic caps from water bottles, which are adequate, although I prefer the Shang ones because it's metal and they've got a serrated edge around the edge, so they tend to grip better on whatever they're being hammered into. And the plastic ones, if you hit them too hard or hit them incorrectly, they can just shatter. So I've got a variety of those there, so that's that problem fixed. I'm sure the cats won't be coming in that gap anymore. What I'm going to do now is go outside and fix the netting up properly against that window. and that'll stop them trying to push their way in underneath that. Right, I've sorted out the gap near the front door. I've rolled a bit of wire up and basically jammed it in along there, so that goes right up to the roof now. And although technically an animal could press that down still and climb over it, it would probably not bother, because there are some sharp bits sticking out, and they just don't do that, do they? They don't really push their way through things the same as we might. Just as a precaution as well, although this gap here is very small, I've put some wire up here and I've put it up there as well, and I think after that the cat would probably have a job to actually jump up that high into such a small gap to get in, and then I'm not sure where it would go from there, to be honest. We'll see how that goes anyway. So that's that corner sorted out. I just need to clean off a bit of the muck that's on the paint here. I've got one other thing to do. I've sorted out this netting now. It's all nice and firm. Again, I don't really know how well cats climb, but they can certainly climb up that if they've got claws. So whether they want to go vertically for such a long distance before they could possibly get into the house through those gaps, somehow I doubt it. So in my opinion, cats are rather lazy animals, so I don't think they're going to make that sort of effort. But there is a gap here that might be useful for them to get into. Just get my tools down. So we've got netting all along here, except that there's a bit of a gap there. I'm pointing my camera into the sun somewhat, so it might not come out very well. But bearing in mind that the wall is just here, it is possible that they would have a go at that, even though there's some sharp bits sticking out. So I'm just going to put an extra bit of wire in that gap there, just to finish this edge off. Right, I'm happy with that. That was difficult to get up to, actually. There's just no space to climb this ladder. But I've jammed a load of wire in that gap now, and there's some bits sticking out of the bottom, so that if anything does try and jump there in mistake, it's going to get a sharp something or other in its claw. Right, I think we're done here. I really do. I really don't think the gaps up the top there are anything to worry about. I've not seen any evidence that cats have tried to go up that high. I've seen paw marks up to the window here, but there is a limit to the sort of vertical height they can climb. Anyway, we'll see. We'll give that a go, and if we get more evidence of cats after the place has been left empty for a while, then we'll carry on blocking more places. But they always leave a trail, so we'll find out where they're trying to get in, or where they are getting in. Now, we've had a big storm here. I wasn't actually here to witness it, but I do know there was a huge storm, and the ground is still wet, and there's absolutely no evidence that this house has even got wet in terms of splashing along the walls. I mean, there is some dirt on the concrete that could splash back onto the walls, and in fact, I don't know if you can tell, but there is a bit of a darker patch to the left here, which has obviously stayed dry, where the dust has kept on the concrete, and then to the right, from about there to the right, is much cleaner, which is where I guess the water's come off the roof and washed away the dust. So far we're okay. The kitchen is dry, whereas that used to leak loads. The walls are looking okay. This area here, you can see some standing water down the bottom there, to evidence that there's been something going on, although that might have been people using the kitchen. But this has got a little bit of debris in it, which is what we expect. It does tend to fill up with debris around this area, but the water, if it goes high, will then just go through the debris or over the top of it, and it won't breach the wall that we've built as a dam. So That was why we built this wall double skin with concrete in it to 2 blocks high, so that if we do get a backing up of water because of debris, it's likely that it will force its way through this gap rather than over the wall. Do you like my descriptive hands? Very descriptive hands. Right, so that's a little bit of maintenance, if you like, that's been done. Again, we've got a line here. You can see that line, I think. That'll be where the water drips off the roof and lands on the concrete. So it's staying well away from the walls, which are perfectly clean still. No splashes of dust or dirt. So all I want to do now is put some ant killer down, because I've got loads of ants around the house. And because someone's actually been in the house in the last couple of days, they might have had a little bit of food in there. There's probably some stickiness somewhere. So I want to get some ant killer down, because I can see ant trails. I can see ant trails here and going up the wall, and around where that netting was as well there are ant trails which leads into the kitchen. So, oh look, there's some ants going up the wall here as well. They may well just be feeding on dead bugs and things, but I don't want them anywhere near the house, and I want to try and achieve what I've achieved at the new house, which is basically an exclusion zone for ants. So I'll gradually kill the nests off that are right near the house, or in the foundations or the walls of the house, and then as I see them around the wall, I'll put ant killer down there as well to basically keep them out of the compound. I think that's the best way of keeping ants at bay, is to not only have your house spotlessly clean all the time, but to make sure that you put plenty of ant killer down to kill the nests and move them as far away as possible. Yeah, I'm seeing ant trails everywhere here, so I'm going to have a great time putting stuff down. Well, I said we had a big rainstorm, and here's the evidence for it really, because we've got a wall collapse, which was inevitable really, because it was built with a single skin. It had no posts to speak of, not proper posts. It had wooden stakes. Yeah, well, this was built in the very early days of my relationship with Suntory, so that was about 2020 when this was built. So it's lasted 4 years, which is 3 years longer than I expected it to last, to be honest with you. I mean, the blocks are well stuck together, I think you can see that, but they weren't attached to the posts in any meaningful way. There was no steel going through the posts, so the posts remain standing and the blocks have collapsed, basically because the pressure of the water over the years seeping down to the bottom as well. But I suppose they've lasted fairly well, but this one collapsed last year I think, and you can see it was very roughly put back. It's nothing like the others in terms of the way it's been built, so they literally just put a couple of rows of blocks on, and the old collapsed blocks are still down there. So this needs rebuilding, and to be honest with you, from where the concrete drive starts all the way back to the road needs to be rebuilt in a double skin properly so it never collapses again. I doubt that'll happen. I think what will happen here is it will be a temporary repair again, and then in 2 years time another bit will fall out, and then it will carry on like that forever. This one's going to go next. I can see the angle of it. It's leaning over and it's next to the original collapse, but it is solid. I'm kicking it and it's not moving, but it is leaning over and it's not attached to that post. So that was the first bit that went. This is the second bit that went, and I reckon this will be the third bit, but maybe that'll be a little while yet. Although, look at that crack. There you go. that's the way it's going to go. It's obviously cracking underneath as well because it's moved, so yeah, that'll be gone in by the end of the rainy season, I reckon. Anyway, it's easily fixed, but it will take some money, and of course it means spending probably more than there was originally spent to put this wall up. And there's the lesson, really. There are some things I do properly here. I'm not totally relaxed about everything. And I know the one thing you can't get away with is retaining walls. You've got to do them properly and spend the money first time. Otherwise you're going to have a constant battle like this. So yes, there are other things now I've learnt just aren't worth spending the money on, but not retaining walls. So this bit here, I've probably explained to you before, but this bit here collapsed, and I did a video of it being rebuilt, but I insisted at that point that it was rebuilt with a double skin, with concrete in the middle and reinforcement. And we've not had a problem since, and that collapsed within a year of it being built, basically because of the volume of water that was coming down the side of the house on both sides. It's just the reason we've had to refurb the house and make it watertight. But this collapsed very quickly because of the volume of water, and we've not had a problem since. It's not leaning over. It's never had any cracking. You can probably see the line of the concrete where we basically dug out from there to there and then built the wall and refilled, and even that line is not cracked. So that shows the wall that was put in there under my instruction has actually remained in place and not even moved 1 inch. Of course, the problem is that Suntory wouldn't replace the posts, and so they're gradually rotting. As you can see, this one's almost gone, and the fence has collapsed. That's nothing to do with structural problems, that's just the fact that the wood's rotted on the cross beams and the whole thing's just collapsed. It's easily replaced, but nevertheless one day these wooden posts are going to have to be removed fully and a concrete replacement put in. Anyway, that's for some point in the future which we needn't worry about at the moment. Right, that's the end of this video for now. So that's the update with the cats and the collapse of the retaining wall on the driveway, and basically everything else is hunky dory.